Every year we seem to fall for a familiar Red Bull trick. We believe Red Bull's learned its lesson, that it's made progress through the previous season, and that it's finally going to mount a title challenge again. So we don't want to get your hopes up for 2021 unnecessarily, but at the start of a new year we're feeling optimistic. Because we've been picking through the wreckage of Red Bull's failed 2020 challenge and the progress the team was able to make despite a fundamental in-season weakness. So what did Red Bull get wrong in 2020, what was the problem it couldn't fix, and what evidence is there that this can change this year? In 2020, Red Bull shifted more towards an inboard loaded front wing and a change in the way it approaches its end plate design. The objective was to deliver energised airflow to the barge boards earlier without compromising the airflow to the underfloor. And at the start of the year, it felt like Red Bull's work had put the team in a very good place. In pre-season, there was such quiet underlying confidence that the slightly slow times in testing and a few spins for Max Verstappen and Alex Albon didn't really seem to matter. And when the 2020 season was put on hiatus and finally resumed 3.5 months later in Austria, Red Bull revealed it had worked through all its planned upgrade packages anyway. It never ran its Australian GP spec after testing, and the development phase meant that 3 iterations were worked through virtually before the RB16 actually hit the track to race. So Red Bull arrived for the real season opener with a heavily developed car. But this would prove to be arguably its biggest mistake because the upgrades didn't work as expected. Armed with the hindsight of that failure, Red Bull now admits that some aspects of its 2020 were self-inflicted. Suddenly it was clear that those pre-season spins were actually root problems that could at best be dulled but never eliminated entirely. Although the car could be quick in slow speed corners, it could also be very tricky as the downforce bled off and the rear ride height increased significantly. Some aerostall trait in that transition seemed to make the rear end grip quite unpredictable. It tended to be very on-off in nature. Diffusers are most prone to stalling at low speeds as the reduced energy flow struggles to stay attached. Verstappen said the all-round package was at its worst during winter testing, but admitted Red Bull was confused when the championship actually started because it had quite a lot of new parts on the car that he expected a lot of, but it just wasn't correlating. So Red Bull had to unwind that back a bit to understand what it had actually introduced, because numerically everything within its tools was saying it was better, but it actually made the characteristics of the car worse. And more than half the season was then spent unpicking this mistake. Upgrades in Germany and Turkey appeared to be the key to unlocking greater performance. The detail of the Nürburgring change remains a bit of a mystery as Red Bull was very coy around it. However, it's known to have been important for how the car's aerodynamic and mechanical platforms coexisted, especially at the rear of the car around the suspension. This also ties in with some much more obvious detail that emerged in Turkey, where it became clear the aero team was trying to keep the underfloor flow to the diffuser at slow speeds more robust. The undernose cape featured 2 slots within it, one each side of the nose, diverting some of the air that the cape would otherwise be turning towards the barge boards and feeding a constant, stall-resistant flow direct to the underfloor. To help open out that direct route to the floor, the front wing shape was changed very subtly, with a different transition from the flaps to the neutral centre section of the wing, allowing a greater volume of air to enter. Like with the barge boards, this takes flow from one part of the car, in this case the wing flaps, to help keep the floor switched on. At the rear of the car, the 2 wastegate pipes were re-sighted from above the main exhaust to below it. This allowed the engine cover slope to extend further down towards the diffuser and suspension. The wastegates, though only in occasional operation, can be spun up by the MGU-H to help control the direction of the gas flow of the whole exhaust assembly. Sighting the wastegates lower would help direct a more powerful flow to merge with the air exiting the diffuser, thereby enhancing its performance. The fact that the upgrade included new heat protection on the suspension elements there suggests that it is indeed where the new exhaust flow was being directed. To Red Bull's credit, its progress in development was again very strong through the year. That progress doesn't necessarily show in the results because Verstappen's first half of the season, when the RB16 was so far adrift of Mercedes W11, was so good that it doesn't look like anything changed. Of the 12 races he finished, 11 were on the podium, so the record book just reflects a full season of Verstappen either being second or third, with a win early on and again at the end. But when Red Bull introduced those upgrades for the Eiffel Grand Prix and the Turkish Grand Prix, Verstappen made a sizable step. In the last 7 races, he was an even more sustained thorn in Mercedes' side, beating at least one W11 in 5 of the races. Rather than picking up the pieces when one of the cars, usually Bottas's, had a setback, Verstappen forced the issue more and more and was a direct competitor on merit. This was partly down to differing strategies between the top 2 teams. Red Bull had committed to constant development of the RB16, planning to carry over around half of the car for what it's calling the RB16B for 2021. Mercedes, with its 2020 car well refined and dominating the season, didn't have anything new on the W11 after the 7th round of the year at Spa. But at the end of the season, Verstappen was in philosophical mood, hinting that Red Bull's main 2020 problem had been ameliorated but not fixed completely because it couldn't be. He said there were some weaknesses in the car that had to wait until 2021 to be resolved. The RB16B designation for Red Bull's 2021 car serves as proof that this car is not an all-new design, but there is still scope for significant change. Aerodynamic development is unrestricted, and teams did have development tokens to deploy on chosen mechanical parts as well. So if Red Bull identified the real root cause of that 2020 car's bad characteristic, and it did so quickly enough, there is reason to believe its 2020 gains can be supported by a considered off-season development step that marries further aero progress with a crucial architectural improvement as well. But you'll be forgiven for thinking that we've been here before with Red Bull, so let us know in the comments below whether you have any faith left in the team to mount a full title challenge, or if you think this cycle of false dawns is just what Red Bull does best. Do give this video the thumbs up if you enjoyed it, even if you're fed up of Red Bull being a bit underwhelming, and make sure you're subscribed to the race and have notifications on to be kept up to date with all of our videos in the future.